Thank you so much for having me at Livingspring 2022. It's not it's not being to be at Livingspring, yeah. Like a lot of people in this generation don't know what Livingspring is, and that's sad. you know, I heard about Livingspring one first as a child, because I grew up in Ile-Ife. So, the way, if you listen to like men like Bojo Emade, Chris Oyakilome, a couple of these men, even Shola Fola Alade, you hear these men talk a lot about agape celebrations, agape. So that's like a word conference that used to happen in Ife that people used to come from all over. Even late Pastor Bimbo Dukoya used to come for it. A lot of like it was like a gathering, and so I feel like the way that was like word conference, Living Spring was like the festival, was like the music festival in town. I didn't even get to attend because I was like a child at the time, primary school I think, and I used to attend Chapel of Grace in Ife, but the picture I had of Living Spring, and it wasn't just a picture. It was like that was the reality. It was this huge, massive music gathering of the gospel music community in the entire nation that used to come. Supana Pasipo, I'm sure Fumi Aragbaye, Evangelist Bola Are, so that was like, in a sense, what people know today as like the experience, something like that. So that was when I first heard of Living Spring. So I've known Living Spring since I was a child, even though I never like went there as a child. I did not qualify. Or maybe my parents didn't just carry me, but I knew Living Spring as a child. Person they heal us now. The great physician, person they heal us. So I mean God is a lot of things. I believe that's why he told Moses, if they ask you, sent you, you say, I am that I am. So I will be who you need me to be per time. So him as great physician, I was about to say great musician. That one said enter. But him as great physician is, that balm of Gilead side of God, that healer side of God, and it's not just physical ailment or physical sickness or physical illness that God can heal us from. It's all forms of abnormality. Anything that is not the ideal that it should be in our lives, then God can be the great physician in that instance to us. How did I get into music? There are two facets to that question, because there's how I got into music generally, then that's how I got into music professionally. So like my mom used to carry us about in Ife to sing, myself and my sisters. I'm the only boy, and we're 7. So like the younger ones that my mom could carry about, we used to sing this song by CNS Ayoni. That song. I used to take the high part at the end. Baba so we sang in Chapel of Grace, sang here and there, So that's like my background in music. But then professionally was in 2004. In fact, that's not even professionally. That's like the amateur phase, because that's when I started writing. And I started getting opportunities to perform. I was in Lagos. I was around that Egbeda, Isheri, Ilepo Alaji, Gondo, Ikotun axis. I'm still a member of the youth ministry, YDI. So I was in YDI, I gave my life to Christ. It was in YDI I discovered, my talent and started to write music and started to perform. Before I then got into OAU, I came back to Ife for school to study economics. Then I honed the skills more while in school. So when I finished school and I served youth service, after that I got signed to a label, and that's when I now became like a professional musician. That's what I do for a living, and that was 2010. In one word, how will I describe my sound? I'll say Afrofusion, because I fuse like the African sound with other sounds, sort of. So yeah, that's like the closest description of my sound, Afrofusion. There's no straight-jacketed way. Depends on the song, depends on the event, because now we just song with a do with it. create platforms and stuff, but to do a song, to do a piece, it varies. Now much more now, I write to a beat. I write to an instrument. So for instance, the album we just put out a decade after, 13 tracks, 8 tracks were by ID Kabasa. So like, and all those 8 tracks, it was just one that we created everything from scratch. So it wasn't like the others. He sent me beats, then I wrote to the beat. But Questions, which is track 4 on the album, Questions, we were all in the studio. So the rapper we featured, Tope, Da Best, the cinematographer who was capturing the creative process, Akin on the bass, Olamide on the guitar, Aid Kabasa on the keys. We're all there from scratch. And we're like, we want to write a song where we ask questions about what is done and different aspects of our faith and about church. So it's like a tough song. It's not, there's hardly a praise song in the album. I hardly do praise stroke worship. It's like topical music. We're talking about stuff, So Aid Kabasa was like, this. We had done all the music and I was like, I want us to do a song where we ask questions. And I don't think you can deliver the song. You just do chorus. You have answers, so you'll not be able to ask the questions. I need someone that is young and really just still has questions. So that was why we called Toby Tone to come to the rap. And he really asked questions, like tough questions. So we created that from scratch. That, for me, that's like one of my most interesting creative processes, because it was interesting to see creation from scratch on every level. The instrumentation, the music, the composing of the chorus, the writing of the rap, we were all there in the room from scratch, creating together like that. And everything was done that day. Creation, recording, production, recording, all done, one go. So it was an interesting experience that I'll never forget. I hope we can do it again. Who would I like to collaborate with in future records? First would be Kenny Corey. He's been a bit away from music, but I wish he'll come back because I think he's a great asset to the kingdom. So I'd love to work with Kenny. I'll definitely love to work with Tope Alabi, because I started listening to her like years back from first album, Oretio Common. So for the love of, I love Tope Alabi, I'd like to do a record with her. Third, let me put this out there, I'd like to do a record with Kanye West. So one of my greatest skills is performance, right? So there's hardly a song that I wouldn't perform well. However, in my history of performing, the songs that I find myself really loving to perform most will be one, Little Drops. I love performing Little Drops. Wambiliki Wabi used to stress me. His work. So Little Drops, then Bagyoshi. Famous musicians that I admire. I think the first would be Bob Marley. So first would be Bob Marley. Admire. I'm making it clear. Admire. Bob Marley. Oliver Mtukudzi. He's a Zimbabwean. He's late. He died in 2019. I found out about him after he had died. He's a fantastic musician. I wished I met him. So Bob Marley, Oliver Mtukudzi. And just because now I'm getting to see the behind-the-scene process of his creation, I'll say Kanye West. The best I've been giving plenty of advices, but the one that usually comes to my head when I remember was by the person who signed me, the best advice I've been given. So it might not necessarily be the best advice I've been given all my life, but the one I can remember now is by his name is Emmanuel Malaka. He's the one who signed me, my record deal, first record deal, 5 years. Manny X, he told me some few months before I got married, he said, Gaise, if your marriage fails, it's your fault. It's not your wife's fault. It's not two of you's fault. If your marriage fails, it's your fault. You are the man and everything falls on your back. He said something like that. That stayed with me, and it helped me to apologize at times when I was not wrong. The most trouble I've ever gotten into, I was in SS2. I wrote something on an SS1 boys book that was about an SS3 prefect, and that day they beat me in all the houses. From Hammer, I was in King's College. They carried me to Macarite's house. They beat me in Macarite's house. Carried me to Payne's house. Beat me in Payne's house. Carried me to I Johnson's. Beat me in I Johnson's. Carried me to Haman's house. Beat me. They beat my life that day. I can't forget that day. Fortunately, the next day was midterm, so I just went home to to lick my wounds. But that's the most trouble I ever got into, because that's what I've suffered for the most in my life. If I could change anything about the Christian music industry, what will it be? You really want me to answer that question? One thing that I would change about the Christian music space will be for Christian musicians to no longer be dependent on pastors. For us to have our own platforms, our own expressions, and not have to rely on being invited to church to exist. I don't mind, I go still repeat. Thanks for sticking through. It's been an interesting journey. Through it all, there's been plenty ups and downs, yet Oluwamba Mishe. But surely, wọ́n gbọ́ mi ní tòsí, wọ́n gbọ́ mi ní gbangba, to the uttermost parts of the earth. And you right now will be able to brag that you've been there from much earlier, before you went global. Watching movie at home, because I can rewind the movie and listen to what I did not hear first time. Eating out. Beach. Neither. Shopping. Sleeping. Up early bow. Juice. Meet friends. Family time is alone time in the work that I do. So family time. Adventure. I love traveling. It depends on what time of the year that's happening, if I'm like 80, we can be going. 85, we can be going. 90, we can be going. But Alabi is 60, 70, come on. Add 15 years to life. Down to use his empty tongue to do. Be rescued by an angel. That's more dramatic. So I'll eat with Jesus at the Last Supper, because that's more personal. That one I'm just watching stuff happen, but this one we're having conversation and it's more personal. So yeah, I'll eat with Jesus at the Last Supper. Well, from the result of both, I'd rather deny Jesus. I don't want to kill myself. That's a tough one. Name the animals or build the ark. I think I'll name the animals. That should be more fun than building the ark. Hide spice in my house, because that way I get to be in the genealogy of Jesus. Come on, walk on water, man. That's an easy answer. What? Jesus, walk on water. And I'd rather be Peter than any of the other disciples.